Well, gentlemen, welcome to Historical Tahlequah. It's such a delight to have Mayor Ken Purdy, Councilman Maurice Turney, and Senator Herb Rozelle with us for this show today. And Mayor Purdy, we're going to kick off this show about old-time Tahlequah with you, and I want you to talk about your father and uncle's sports shop, when it started, and all those good things. Just tell us. And you guys just join in if you feel led.
Well, I'm probably the newcomer to this group, but in terms of businesses, family businesses that came to town, but my grandfather and his wife, Catherine, my granddad, Gene Purdy, and his wife, Catherine, came from Salina, Oklahoma, down to Tahlequah in, I think, around 1935 or 6. The store dates back to 1937, so I know it was very close to there. They moved to a house, I believe, up on Going Snake.
Yes, indeed.
They opened a store, and I have a picture of my father and my uncle as fairly young men. It looks like they're maybe teenagers in that,
isn't that
photo of the store down at 123 North Muskogee. I believe that's the current site of another boutique store now. That's also called Everything Under the Sun, basically, in that area. Well, and the store was one of a little combination of dry goods and sporting goods and a little bit of everything. And I think over the next several years it evolved to be predominantly a sporting goods store.
Well, as the dry goods, I see, and we'll get a better view of this, I see pictures of animal mountings on the walls.
And
some
of those are still in the family. Yeah, they obviously sporting goods was, or the sporting life, let's say, was an important aspect of the Purdy family for a long period of time.
Well, that is one. Are you aware that Gene was my father's student back in about 1915 in Salina? My father was a superintendent in Salina. And, we're going to have to digress here, but old times, there was a certain father in the community who caused a problem sometimes at Salina. There were never any in Tahlequah that caused a problem, gentlemen. Never any fathers did that, did they? Well, anyway, this gentleman was known to do that, and my father was teaching a math class, and Gene was in the class, and they looked out the windows and saw this father coming riding a horse with a Winchester across the pommel of the saddle. And Gene said, "Watch out, Mr. Harrington. Watch out, Mr. Harrington. He has a gun." It turned out he was bringing back his son who had played hooky, and he shoved him in the door and said, "Whop him, Mr. Harrington." So your father came up, and uncles came up in
that fashion.
That's
well,
right.
as a young person in the community, I spent a great deal of time in that store, and there were an awful lot of characters that came through that place, and of course, being a sporting goods store, where hunting and fishing were large activities where there were lots of stories, and many of them whoppers that are associated with people that like to engage in hunting and fishing. So it was a wonderful place to grow up. About the first 10 years of my life, I think, were probably spent down there on Main Street every day and every hour that I could, and soaking up all the stories and all the characters that we had to offer.
Are there any stories that you'd care to repeat?
Not many of them here today.
Not many of them appropriate. I heard you and Mr. Turney talking about some goods that were for sale in here, and there were some things in tin buckets, and those were, what did you guys say those were in those tin buckets? Didn't you say pork and beans were for sale?
No, this was in the picture that I have.
Oh, it's in the picture that you have instead of this. Well, we'll look at that too. Well, did you notice anything in this picture? It looks like are those shoes?
I think those are shoes.
And I remember in the old time shoe stores, the boxes were shelved.
They were all put up in the shelves down there, and I think in fact, at one time, I think they even had confections, candy, and some soda there in the store. I know my Uncle Bill, the oldest brother in that family, tells me that he used to jerk a few sodas down there.
My goodness. How long was that store in existence, Ken?
Well, they stayed in as a sporting goods store until I think about 1979.
That's a
It
long.
was a good
long
time
history.
for a downtown merchant.
And you were a tad, and then a teenager,
I was.
and then a grown,
And
really.
then grew up and went away to school in other places and pursued a career elsewhere, and then came back a few years later.
To that store. And I noticed you said, and I'm sure you two gentlemen also noticed that he said on Main Street, and Main Street is Muskogee Avenue, of course, in this day and time. Is there anything that you all remember about Purdy's before we go on to you all and let you tell your remembrances?
I was in there a lot, and it's like he said, it was quite a place to listen. You could hear a lot of stories, and a lot of them were wild.
You remember that too, Morris?
Yes, I remember going into the store, and of course, being a friend of Blake's, then we would gather in there, and of course, as small boys, we'd just listen to the old men tell stories about things that happened to them.
That's so much fun. Well, I think it's probably, gentlemen, time for a station break, and you people come right back to Historical Tahlequah because we want to hear from Mr. Charity and Mr. Roselle.